Hello everyone. It's James again. And today we are covering the young man that was held captive for the last 20 years in a little tiny room, allegedly at the hands of his stepmother. And the case continues, and as we learn things, we find out more and more that our instincts about this case are for the most part right. As you remember in the last video I made about this, I mentioned how she was likely trying to control the scene. And when protective services showed up many years ago, she was likely the one doing the talking. And it has come out that that's likely what happened. And the way she was acting at the scene, as the firefighters were trying to get her away from her stepson so they could help him. And she didn't seem concerned. She seemed like she wanted to be there to see what her stepson might say, so she could control the narrative. Well, one of the responding firefighters came out today, saying her behavior was somewhat strange as she seemed more concerned about her cats than anything else. And I do get being concerned about one's pets. But in a video I was going to make here shortly, narcissists, though they oftentimes will treat pets badly, they will sometimes treat them good just so you, the victim, can see your narcissistic abuser treating a cat or dog better than you. Meaning, their cat or dog deserves humanity and love and you do not. And I will leave links in the box below for a few of these news clips that are eye-opening. And another person that is helping out in this case said this young man, even though he's been through this horrible abuse, he has a wonderful sense of humor and is fun to talk with. And in his words, he said it's like talking to a completely different kind of being. You see. And I said it on my last video regarding Selena and the evil woman that took her life. And I've been saying it for years, that most, not all, but most victims of narcissists and psychopaths radiate this light of love. A light these evil beings have to snuff out, as if they are ordered directly by Satan to do so. And I've mentioned before, there is a big push to make this world more evil and more narcissistic. And how that is done is by stunting the growth of and holding back those that indeed have that bright light that shines. Because if they are let free to grow as God has intended for them to grow, evil would shrink into the corner of nothingness. But in order for evil to flourish, those that are evildoers have to stamp out all of those that have this light. So the light is unable to grow and influence others. Plus, just like I mentioned in the Selena case, the abuser can see the light of genuine love you have. And they know what and who you are. They might not be able to explain it, but they know that God loves you. And you share that love freely with others. And they know no matter how hard they fake it, they will never have the real thing. Because that's not who they will ever be. So they try to stamp out this goodness wherever they go. So it's very interesting this responder or helper to this case said it was like talking to another kind of being. Meaning this young man is so decent and full of light, even after being abused for so long. It's amazing. God is truly with this young man. But another big thing happening in this case is the biological mother has given her statements. And she said before her son was even a year old, I think if I'm not mistaken, either 6 or 9 months old, she gave up full custody to the father. Now, here's the thing. I don't know this woman's situation, but most people that live here in the United States, most women do not give up custody of their children. That is unless they have a substance abuse problem, or they aren't done partying, or they have a mental illness they are aware of, that they are unable to manage. Because here's the thing. Money is rarely a reason why this kind of thing happens. Because there is program after program that is there and ready to help with food, housing, daycare, school. Now you won't have the best of the best, but it's a start. So though I'm not passing any kind of judgment on this woman, and we don't know her situation yet, it just seems strange she just gave up her son. Unless something about her life was drastically wrong. That wouldn't be a good environment for her son to grow up in. I guess we'll have to wait and see if any more information comes about. But the police and all of those involved are trying to piece together who knew and who enabled this. Or who are the flying monkeys? The firefighter said. This young man was being held inside of a room within a room, with locks on the outside of the door. And you see, here's the thing. Some narcissists can't help but brag to others they think are okay with what is happening. I could imagine her talking on the phone with one of her so-called friends. Oh yes. That little shit is asking for water again. I told that little shit. If he's thirsty to drink out of the toilet. I could totally hear that happening. So I believe there are flying monkeys out there that not only know, but have known about this the entire time and did nothing. The other problem is, when some of these officials are asking how and why this could have happened. Well, like I mentioned the other day, when the officials arrived, a woman answered the door. It's that simple. The truth is abusers can be men and they can be women. Heck. There is a story I want to cover of a woman that didn't get away from her husband or boyfriend in time. And he ended her life and the life of one of their dogs. So abuse victims and those that are narcissistic abusers can be both men and women. But we live in a society where men are seen as the abusers. And women are seen as the victims. Period. End of story. And as I said in the video the other day, we have the feminist movement to thank for that. Because they are the ones that pushed this model out to all police agencies nationwide and in a great many of Western countries. That somehow women are least likely to be abusers. And men are more likely to be abusers. That men need to be looked upon with suspicion. And women are to be given the benefit of the doubt. Officials that showed up. And likely they didn't care enough to do their job. They likely didn't want to work hard enough on those days. Again, this is just my humble cartoon opinion. A woman answered the door. She refused to speak to them. And that was it. The case got closed because inactivity. When we know. If it was a man that was reported doing this to his daughter. Had he refused to speak to these officials, they likely would have left and came back with a warrant to search the home and or at bare minimum have the child be examined for signs of abuse. You have to understand that there are some women that literally hate men. And yes, there are men that hate women. But the women that hate men are never addressed and talked about. Yet a great many of women that hate men, I believe, hold these types of positions. And some of their male counterparts hate men too. Just as a default, so they can simp and be with these types of women. So when they see a boy that is having a hard time in school, or being abused at home, they might not try as hard to help the boy. Because it's one less boy that will become a man and do whatever it is they say men do. Now this seems far-fetched. But listen to some of these types of women talk. A great many of them will say they are okay with men being falsely accused of certain bad things. Because they are men and they might do something anyways even if they haven't done anything yet. It's truly a bizarre way to think. But in the words of Erin Pizzi, the woman who had to run for her life and leave the very first battered woman's shelter she herself created. All because she wanted to help men equally as she was helping women. Because she woke up and figured out what the truth was and is. That men and women can be just as evil and as violent as one another. And in the words of Erin Pizzi, most of the women at the start of the feminist movement in the 60s and 70s were very disturbed, violent women. That felt that because their fathers were bad, that all men are bad. And they employed the same types of tactics as Marxists and communists used to push through their propaganda and narratives. The reality is, this system failed this young man. It completely failed him. And the question is why? And who knew? Now could it be simply the people that showed up to do their check were lazy? Sure. Likely so. But is it also possible they didn't push further to see what was going on? Simply because it was a woman that was being accused and a boy that was the victim? I don't know. But what I do know is, if the roles were reversed, it's extremely likely a man would have been face down in the driveway, handcuffed with several knees in his back. Something needs to change. And this is an important case for this change to happen. The question is, will it? I don't know. But beyond that, the main thing is this young man heals and gets the help he needs. God truly was and is with him. I'm sending a prayer his way. But what do you think? I would like to know. With that said, I do hope your day is blessed. And until next time, bye for now. And be good to yourself.